Hi, this is Jerry with I Love RV Life. For the last 4 months, 3,000 miles, Joan and I have traveled in our fifth wheel, and we have been using a new device. This is the LiPower Mars 2000, and boy, this has been valuable in our RV travel. Well, hi, it's Jerry. Joan and I have been traveling a bunch since we took ownership of the new Montana in February. So that's 7-8 months that we've been traveling heavily, breaking into Montana and seeing all the fun sights that have been out there. And we really needed something different to help us in our travels. One was we had some very long tows this go round. Some of them over 9 hours. We had a couple of those. Kind of broke our 330 rule, if you're familiar with that. In by 330, no more than 330 miles. Yeah, we broke that rule. But one of the things that we discovered very early on is we wanted to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. Again, 42-foot fifth wheel, large Super Duty F350. And we just can't pull in everywhere. Sometimes where you can't get into a Walmart. We even found with the heavy trucker travel that was out there, we couldn't even pull into truck stops. We tried that in a number of our tows this go around, and they were full. There was not 1 square inch that we could fit. So that really became a challenge. We really had to stop and think, what can we do? So before our June travel season started, we knew we needed some form of supplementary power. Now, we have a 4,500 watt gasoline generator, and that will run just about anything that we want inside the camper if we're going to do a long-term stay for overnight or days without any power, and it's very useful. But that was not our application. We wanted something simple, quick, but yet could power up the essential devices that we had here in the fifth wheel when we pulled over, say, at a rest stop. And here's the application that we needed. Pulling over in a rest stop, we wanted to be able to run certain devices, and I didn't want to have to rewire the camper. I wanted to be able to take this unit, whatever it might be, plug it into the side of our main power 50 amp connection, and be able to run the fifth wheel as you see it right now. If I wanted to turn on our battery lights, okay, I've got battery power for that, but right over there, you see a residential refrigerator. It's going to be running as soon as we plug in power into the 50 amp connector. The inverter is going to turn itself off. Second, you see that thing right there? That is a microwave. 1,800 watts of microwave. And we wanted to be able to have hot meals when we traveled. We were traveling from June all the way through the end of October, and part of that travel took us down into Florida, and it was a bit warm. We leave early in the morning usually, pull over between 11 and 12 for a lunch stop in a rest area. Wanted to be able to make our meals. We're going to need to run a fan. We might want to turn on our MoFi hotspot to be able to sit there for a half an hour, check our email, see if I had any business work I needed to tend to quickly before we continued down the road. So we needed to be able to power those devices. This is what we found. It's going to be heavy. This is from a company called LiPower. This is their Mars 2000, their largest unit. I'll show you a close-up on this in just a minute. Let me give you some stats on why we were very excited about getting this unit. First of all, 1,460 watt-hour capacity. That is going to far exceed any power demands that we would have for several hours pulled over on the side of the road, operating in the fashion that I just described. But it's even more important, 2,000 watts of continuous power. That's very important. Why? That refrigerator running back there is going to draw around 450 watts when it's on. It's going to cut off when it's cool enough. It's going to cut on when it's warm enough. We've got that big microwave back there that is going to be running. That's going to be taking a lot of power. But why 2,000 watts? That doesn't sound like you've got enough power, Jerry. Well, this thing has 4,000 watt surge capacity. So we can hit it with that refrigerator when that compressor cuts on. We can hit it with that momentary surge that the microwave requires. It worked great. We had absolutely no problems, and I'm going to show that to you just in a setup here in just a few minutes. But there's even more to it that I want to be able to show you some of the added features as we go into the details of this unit. 240 watts of solar input. We did not use solar on this, but you have that capability. It weighs almost 40 pounds. It's heavy. It's really, really heavy. How long will it last? Well, this thing will be able to support 3,500 charge cycles. That's going to far exceed anything Joan and I would ever need, even if we were using this on a weekly basis. But even after that, the batteries still have 80% of their capacity left over. Very, very substantial amount of charge cycles that are going to be remaining. Let me show you how you can charge this unit up. This is what we used throughout our travels. This is provided by this unit. This is a charge brick. It's a very large brick. You can kind of see here. This is, a standard 120 volt plug that we would plug in at night. This is 25.5 volts and it has 8 amps of output power coming out to I think this is a 2.1 millimeter jack that just plugs right into the face of the unit. And we could run this thing down to say 20%, I think is the lowest that we ever ran it when we were traveling. And we could power, plug it into power when we would get to our destination for our next trip. And we could charge the unit back, I would say in about 5 to 6 hours. It would happen pretty quick. LiPower also provides this charging cable. This is your standard 12 volt, call it accessories adapter. Some of us call them cigarette lighter adapters that you find in most of your vehicles. Again, along with that 2.1 millimeter jack that you see here. And you can plug this in as you travel down the road. Charging, we did not, again, because we're hitting it only with 12 volts versus that brick's 25 volts. It made a substantial difference. This took about anywhere from 12 to 14 hours if this thing was, down to about 20%. Usually in our travels, especially if we pulled over on the side of the road just for about an hour and use it, we would only get it down to about 80% capacity. So after a couple hours, we brought it right back up to 100%. This is our fourth portable power station that we have tested. This is the largest that we've tested of the 4. And this is the first time we've received one of these. Again, this is another adapter cable. This is your 2.1 millimeter jack, but this has the MC4 and the IP67 traditional solar connectors that you would find. So why is this important? Well, again, a number of applications to be able to use this, and let me share with you, and then you can see how these cables will work for you. For us, we're only using this for short-term power needs. Again, we've got a big fifth wheel. We typically don't boondock. If we are going to be pulling over for a long period of time, well, we're going to have to use a generator just because of the size of this unit. But for temporary power, this unit exceeded all of our expectations. Again, we could be pulled over on the side of the road. I could use this to power laptops. We could use it for some small LED lighting. We could keep our phones charged. Hi, this is Jerry with I Love RV Life, and for the last 4 months, Joan and I have traveled over 3,000 miles. Do it again. Hi, this is Jerry with I Love RV Life. For the last 4 months, Joan and I have traveled over 3,000 miles. And in that travel, we have been using portable power station. Hi, this is Jerry with I Love RV Life. For the last 4 months, 3,000 miles. Joan and I have traveled in our fifth wheel, and we have been using a new device. This is well, hi, it's Jerry. Joan and I have been traveling. We've been in 4 states, up in the mountains, down in Florida, all points in between. We've had really a great time. And traveling in our new Montana that we've had now for almost 5 months, February, March, August, September, October. Turning the unit on is very simple. We sit here and hold it for just a second until it comes on. You'll notice here from this helpful display that you see that we're currently at 100% of charging. I charged it last night. We have 2 numbers here. This top number shows wattage input, depending on the type of device that we're using here to charge the unit. And we also have an output power requirement that shows, the draw that we actually have on the unit, so we can kind of calculate between the percentage and how much power we have from a management, how long this unit will operate. We have 310 volt AC plugs that are here rated at 2,000 watts or 4,000 watt surge. To turn these on, you hold the AC button here, and this will turn the inverter on. What I would suggest, if you're not using this for 110 volt power, then you want to make sure you keep this off so you don't put additional draw on it from using the inverters that you have here. From an input perspective, we have 2 different types of inputs that you can use for powering this. The 2.1 millimeter jack that I was showing you earlier, and you also have these Anderson connectors, and there's a wide range of Anderson connector cables that you can purchase. Again, extension cords, interfaces for various solar panels. This is a very common way to be able to connect your portable power station to some external devices, again, such as solar panels. Here we have USB to turn the USB ports on. We hold that for a second and the USB indicator light will come on the panel. We have a USB 3 jack, which is rated at 60 watts. We also have 2 different types of your standard USB-C or USB-A type connections that are here. Your 5 volt 2.4 amp, we have those for your cell phones, for your iPads and tablets or whatever you have. You've got this typical type of outputs that you have here as well. And then here we have your 12 volt accessory jack. We use this for powering a portable refrigerator that worked fantastic. This is rated at 8 amps, and you've got these smaller 2.1 jacks here that you can use for other types of devices. These are all rated at 12 volts. And again, I'll turn the USB off. You can have this turned on for that type of operation. And believe it or not, you can turn all these on, including your inverter, and run all of these all at the same time if that's what your specific powering needs might be. So a lot of different types of interfaces, a lot of different types of output and powering options to charge this are available on the Mars 2000. When you're considering purchasing any type of portable power station, these battery supplied portable power stations, it's very, very important that you determine what your power draw will be. Now, if you're going to use this for powering a single device, longevity of the batteries will be quite considerable, but that's typically not the application. Let me share with you this chart that was provided by LiPower. If you're looking at charging a phone that would have 12 watt hours of capacity, you're looking at something over 100 charges. We can continue on through this chart. A mini fridge would be very popular, making the assumption of 60 watts. Now, this says 20 hours. It could be more, it could be less. It really depends on time of year Is it cool? Is it hot? And how often that mini fridge is going to run. A coffee machine. Why would a coffee machine only work for 120 minutes of use? Well, because these things are like 800 watts. CPAP machine is a great application for something like this. Again, it depends on what the wattage is. These things run from 20 to 50 watts or higher. You're looking at running this thing for 6 to 8 hours in the evening while you sleep. It could be 4 nights plus that you could use something like this. Now, there is a formula that was provided by LiPower that shows, how to be able to calculate usage for this device and how long it will last. I've been using this term watt hours. What is a watt hour? 1 watt operating for 1 hour is 1 watt hour. Okay, so we have this unit here, 1,460 watt hours. If I had a device that pulled 1 watt and I plugged it into this Mars 2000 by LiPower and ran that 1 watt device continuously, it would operate that device for 1,460 hours. Now, is that practical? No, I can't even think of any practical device that only pulls 1 watt. So how would this actually be used? I'm going to show you 2 ways to be able to calculate your specific needs using a portable battery-powered power station. Here is a chart that was provided by LiPower, and I think this is a great way to be able to look at a single unit that is going to need power over a period of time. Here we have 1,460 watts, and then they have a power utilization rate, because you have to look at this unit from a standpoint that I might be only using this as 12 volts, or I might need the inverter. And if the inverter's running and the fans are running, you're going to lose some of the capacity of the unit. So kind of like from a rule of thumb, they're using that 0.85 as this is the max you can get out of this unit. And again, you might be able to get more than that, but you won't get less. Going back to the formula, you're looking at your operating power. So the easy way to be able to calculate how many hours that you can use this unit from a single device, 1,460 watt hours times your 0.85 divided by the amount of watts that you would be needing during that period of time. And this will give you the total amount of hours. But again, we need to look at something for more of a practical use. So I've created another chart here that I wanted to show you how you could use this for calculating how much power I would need, let's say over a day's use. Let's look at this chart. Here I'm showing something that would be like a typical day. I'm going to charge a laptop. I have a laptop and it takes 1 hour to charge it at 60 watt. I'm going to charge 2 cell phones at 12 watts each. Again, that's going to take an hour, and I'm calculating 2 of those times 12 watts at 24 watts. I'm going to operate a 12 volt fan that requires 30 watts for 8 hours. I'm going to need 240 watts of power. I'm going to operate a 12 volt mini fridge at 60 watts for 24 hours. But again, this is only half duty. That compressor is going to come on, it's going to turn off. It's going to come on, it's going to turn off. I'm kind of calculating this for a summer period where that unit is inside of a vehicle. And I'm going to estimate that during that period, I'm going to need 720 watts. And then I'm going to operate 12 volt LED lights, a string of those. It's going to total 20 watts for 8 hours in the evening. And I'm going to need 160 watts. If I was to total all of that, I'm going to need for that day's use 1,204 watts. And I have available 1,460 watts. I would still have 256 watts remaining. So I can see using this in a lower use application to where I was using this as my primary power source for 1 day's use using that example. And this unit could supply my power for that day. Now we're thinking but I'm going to be parked somewhere for a weekend, or I'm going to need this thing for weeks or months on end. How do I keep this thing charged up? Well, that's the good thing about this unit. It can take 240 watts of solar power coming into this unit. And again, I'll never get 240 watts of continuous power off of any solar panels. We have clouds, we've got placement of those units, and I usually use a factor of 75 to 80% of utilization of something like this. But if I was to look at, say, getting a good 6 hours of solar off of 2 panels that would give me 240 watts, it's easily that I could replace that total watts of usage every single day and keep this unit charged and never have to worry about using any other form of external power, such as a generator or your vehicle or anything like that to keep it up and going. So that's where these portable power stations really start becoming very, very practical in your camping and RV travel life. Take these and 240 watts of solar, and these things really become a very powerful tool for your power that you would need while you're out traveling. I'd like to now show you how Joan and I used this in our travels while we were going down the road. This was a great application for Joan and I. Really made our travel so much nicer, and that is temporary power of the fifth wheel while we were pulling over for stops. Now, I didn't actually show this when we were going to the rest area, really for selfish reasons. Again, when you're looking at traveling for 9 hours, I wanted to be able to, have our lunch, take us a short rest, and go on down the road. So, setting up cameras and doing that for a couple hours just did not fit our time budget. So I'm gonna show you the exact identical environment that we had when we were traveling, with one specific difference. The slides are going to be out for my comfort while I'm filming. I'm going to need some form of an adapter to convert this 50 amp connection into something I can plug into the front of the LiPower, and I'm going to use this device. These are very, very common. This is a 50 amp connection that would go directly into the fifth wheel, and then your standard 110, 120 volt plug-in like you would have at home. This will handle up to a 20 amp connection, and it's very simple to use. Here's the connector. Again, it's just like putting in the large cable that I'll just plug directly into the side of the unit, and then I'll tighten this up and then plug this into an extension cord. I'm going to use a good quality extension cord. This is a 10 gauge extension cord. Why a 10 gauge? Well, you want to be able to get the maximum amount of power into the side of the unit and not lose it with one of these cheap extension cords. So whether you're using the LiPower, I strongly recommend a 10 gauge extension cord, or you're at home, you're plugged into the side of your home, or you're at a friend's house or something like that, and you want to be able to have some basic power, this will give you that capability. So I'll show you how I'm going to connect this to the LiPower. I'm going to take the extension cord here, and this would be just like I would be at the rest stop. This takes just a couple minutes to do this. I'm going to plug my extension cord in here, and then I'm going to go in here to my service bay where I have typically have my water hose and those types of things running in here. And I'm going to just kind of kick the cable up underneath here. And the reason I'm doing this is so that I can close the lid here, so I don't have to worry about a truck or somebody pulling into the side of me. And then I'll slide this unit back just a little bit to give me a little room to close the door. And then I will plug the unit in here. And then, you can see it's just full of everything, just like we would be in travel mode. Now I can close my door here, and while we're parked for 30 minutes or an hour, however much time we're going to take, we can use the unit. Let's power this up and see how it's going to behave. Okay, I have everything plugged in, nothing but the LiPower here to the unit. I'm going to hit this for 1 minute, and I'm going to turn the AC power on, and we should see this. You'll hear the fan come on shortly. And if you can make it out, we're currently operating at almost 943 watts. So this will be the refrigerator that's operating at this given time, 850 watts. So we're going to be pushing this as hard as we can go right now because the refrigerator is running and everything else inside. And let's see if we can make that microwave work. We're down to about 700 watts now. So we should have enough budget in here to make that work. It's still dropping a little bit. Let's see what happens. To show you how we would be using this from a, again, pulling over at the rest stop. Again, I see the refrigerator. Yep, I just checked it. Lights are on. You can probably see here the clock is flashing on the microwave, so we know it's running. And what we do is, again, travel time is important. We want to have us a nice lunch, a quick lunch. So we'll use something like, it's quicker for us just to pull something out of the freezer, like a lean cuisine or a healthy choice meal, or one of those frozen steamer meals that will run for, takes 3 to 4-ish minutes to be able to run in the microwave on full power. And we'll do 1 or 2 of those. That's quicker than making sandwiches or even in prepared foods. Just simply zap it, hot meal, sit down, and just enjoy our stop while we're here. So to kind of simulate that, I've just got a Pyrex glass here full of water, and I'm going to put it inside here and take out my travel foam to keep the plate from dancing all over the place. And I'm going to hit it here for 4 minutes and start. And let's go check and see what our power demands are outside. We see the power's jumped up quite a bit here. Aside from the fan, our battery charger has kicked on as well, the 12 volt converter here. And so we're up to about almost 1650 roughly watts. We've used 11% of power, so you can see pulling this much wattage. Remember, this thing is rated at 1460 watt hours, so we're really pulling a lot of power out of this unit. Again, perfect application. The microwave's turned off. Let's see, do we have steaming water? Oh yeah, you probably can't see it on the camera, but yeah, we got very hot water. So what this whole simulation here for, what this whole simulation was for is just to show you how we use this when we travel. It's a great application. Again, we really took this to the limits. The battery charger was running, the refrigerator's running, the microwave was running, and we would do another meal for another 4 minutes. So we would be chewing heavily into the capacity of this unit. What we found is after about an hour of usage in this fashion, sitting on the side of the road in a rest stop, running the fans and those types of things, we would run somewhere between 25 to 28% of the capacity of the unit for that 1 hour stop. Again, 1460 watt hours, and we are using 1600 plus down to about 1400 plus. So, just a lot of power consumption. But the unit held up well. I mean, it really handles the surge, handles the refrigerator kicking on. Perfect application for these 1 hour stops on the side of the road, and not having to fire up that big generator and going through, setting it up, making sure we had fuel, all the racket going on, everybody looking at us while we're at the rest stop with that generator running. Just perfect for something like this. Let me mention something else that we found during our testing period. We also have a portable refrigerator. And that portable refrigerator draws, I think, something between 30 and 60 watts, depending on whether we have it in, eco mode or not. And we use that, we plugged the LiPower in on some of these 9-hour travels so that we could keep the refrigerator running for that entire period of time. And every time we made it to our destination, the LiPower had turned itself off. We couldn't figure out what was going on. So I connected LiPower and found out that when you're using 12 volts of power on this, the unit will only stay on for 2 hours without zero power draw on it. So there were times that refrigerator would turn itself off, and because it's heavily insulated and we had it down in the bay, it may be off for more than 2 hours, and during that period the battery management system in the LiPower would say, oh, okay, I'm not being used, so let's just turn the unit off so we can conserve power. That became a problem because I didn't have any vampire draw that we like to use in these terms, something that was a slow wattage. I needed at least 2 watts of additional power being pulled on that battery management system for it to be able to stay on during that period of time. And since I was only powering that refrigerator and it would go off for more than 2 hours, that would happen. If I'm plugging it in, we tried it on the AC side and did the same thing. I had to have 3 hours. So there were these mornings that we would leave and the unit was cold, and it may not warm up for several hours to build up enough heat inside that bay. And during that 3-hour period, sometime during that 9 hours on the road, the LiPower would no longer power the unit. So it would just go off because I wasn't using it. So the battery management system did as designed. LiPower did mention that they were looking at making a change to that in their battery management system. I encourage them to do so because sometimes this may be a single device that would be going off and on during a period of time. Van dwellers who are trying to conserve the energy of these units would be a particular application. I will mention this: if solar is being used as the input during that period of time, that would be enough to keep this system alive and operating and functional during that period of time. So, look at your application, how it be used. I still would give this LiPower unit a good solid A. We have worked it. We have worked it hard, and it has not failed during this entire trip. So I'm very, very happy with it. I'm leaving links for you to where you can be able to purchase this unit. There's some big sales going on. These kind of go up and down, so I'll leave a link in the show notes, and you can see it down below here to where you can be able to get some pretty heavy discounts. And these kind of go up and down, these discounts, throughout the various periods of times for the 2000, and then they have smaller units out here as well. I hope you enjoyed this test. This was a long one. This one lasted 4 months, the longest test we've ever done on a unit. But we love doing these things. And why do we do it? It's the same as always. It's because I love RV life.